Good evening, our viewers from all over the world. I'm happy to welcome you to Elomba Television tonight. Our topic tonight is, can Nigeria exit insecurity, halt the clamor for self-determination by its constituent units, and prevent disintegration? Our guests tonight are Mr. Paul Ejime, journalist, author, former diplomatic and war correspondent, and a global affairs analyst. Mr. Ejime is also a consultant to international organizations, corporate commissions, communications, media development, and elections. In fact, a former director of communication for ECOWAS. He has led so many and participated in so many election observer units across Africa. Our next guest is Mr. Ahmad Sajoh, PhD, former Commissioner for Information, Adamawa State, and now Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer of FutureNow project, an NGO based in Abuja. Our next guest is Dr. Nwankwo Nwaezeigwe, Director, Nigeria Civil War and Genocide Research Network, Research Fellow-in-Exile at Institute of African Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and former Director, Center for Igbo Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Dr. Nwaezeigwe is an expert in genocide and has led research development across Africa, especially in the Sahel region, especially with the activities of the Fulani and other migratory groups, the Tuaregs, across the Sahel region in Africa. Our next guest is Professor Chikwendu Ukaegbu, Professor of Sociology and Global Development, Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, USA. He has published a book, In Search of Development, Human Capital, Entrepreneurship, Politics, and Leadership in Africa, which was published in 2020. So it's my pleasure to welcome these eminent guests in our midst tonight. Well, let's not waste further time. I will not go forward to acknowledge a lot of other guests tonight who have joined us. Please, I will not go on to mention them by name, but we are happy for all of you to be here and hope and look forward to meaningful participation this evening. Let's start with Professor Chikwendu Ukaegbu, please. The way we work is we have the team, so you make a 5-minute presentation, and then I call on the next guest, and then we start taking questions, and then we move along. So Professor Ukaegbu, please.
Okay, I thought I was the last on the list. So
but you're not.
I prepared my mind for that. Anyway, can Nigeria exit insecurity, and how can it avoid the quest or the movement for self-determination and therefore prevent disintegration? Exiting security can be done if we properly define the problem. A national insecurity based on strictly on economic problems can be actually stopped by economic development and therefore taking most people along. I'll give you an example with the almighty Japan. Now, we say that Japan is one of the safest places in the world. That is true if you look at the world studies of criminality and violence. But that's not the way it was before. After World War II, Japan was full of crime and criminals. And they tried to use force, the force of justice, to actually stop it. It couldn't. Then they went back to the drawing board and said, our problem is economic, and therefore we will go about it through economic development. And we see where Japan is today. I'm saying this because I used to teach crime and justice around the world. Then secondly is the issue of self-determination. Self-determination has very many names: self-determination, secession, balkanization, disintegration, and many more. Many people define these things in negative terms, but I'm doing otherwise. I'm saying categorically that calling these things a bad name does not help. They are instruments of solving the problems of diversity. And I'll be willing to deal with that when the time comes. All of these disintegrative concepts are viewed negatively. That is calling a dog a bad name because you want to kill it. And therefore, for me, my thesis here is that there are instruments of solving the problems of diversity. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for such a succinct thesis we've listened to. We look forward for your further elucidation on this subject when you start taking our questions. I would like to, okay, let me not jump queue this time again so that we wouldn't, let me call on, I'm not sure that Mr. Paul Ejime is here at the moment. Mr. Ejime, are you here with us now? No? Okay, let's now call on Mr. Ahmad Sajoh, a doctor actually. We have had his articles on the subject of insecurity across Nigeria for the past decade. So let's hear from him on what he thinks about this subject. Can Nigeria exit the present insecurity and the threat of this disintegration? Dr. Sajoh.
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by saying that the current spate of insecurity we are going through in this country, it's actually getting out of hand. It's not easy for non-state actors to begin to subdue the state on the monopoly of instruments of coercion or violence. And that is what we're seeing. That if you come to Nigeria, you go to certain parts of the country. I was in the Northwest and the Northeast. I've been part of the crisis, the Boko Haram crisis, for all this while. I even did a lot of research on the Boko Haram crisis. I know that we have a hot potato on our hands there, but what is happening now in the Northwest frightened me much more. Some of these people, they go to villages and insist on being paid for villagers to open their markets. They insist on being paid for villagers to go to their farms, and they do it very brazenly. So what we have now in Nigeria is a situation where non-state actors are beginning to break the monopoly of the state for ownership of instruments of coercion and violence, and are even beginning to overtake the state in that sense. And that is very, very dangerous. And it's a recipe for disintegration, even without any self-determination agitation. Because once, you know, when Boko Haram was at their own height, they declared a caliphate. They took over certain parts of the country and declared a caliphate. My hometown was taken over. The name was even changed, and it became part of the caliphate administration. This is the danger that this insecurity is posing to us. And we believe that, you know, both kinetic and non-kinetic methods should be used to at least subdue the crisis. But I want to tell you that self-determination, as far as I'm concerned, is a fundamental right. If I don't feel comfortable within a setup, I should start talking about a system that serves my interest. Don't forget that it has always been said that peace is not the absence of violence, but the presence of social justice. Do we have social justice in Nigeria? Are people actually satisfied? Do we feel safe? Do we feel protected? Do we feel that our economic, social, and economic interests are protected by the state? If we think that our socioeconomic conditions are not protected by the state, we have every reason to begin to question the legitimacy of the state. And this is what is happening. The state must go back to the drawing board and start thinking about what are the socio-economic and even political interests of the constituent groups that make up the country. Are we really, really on top of the situation with respect to protecting those interests as they affect ordinary people in those areas? And these are the root of the agitations. One, we have a system where non-state actors have taken over the instruments of violence and are tormenting people, and the state seems to be helpless about it. And then two, we now have people who are agitating for, what they think should be done to protect their socio-economic and political interests within a polity called Nigeria. I think we can exit all of that. We can overcome all of that, but we must have the will to accept the truth where it is the truth. The truth is that in all sections of this country, people are not treated equitably the way they should be treated. It doesn't matter that this guy, somebody from one section is ruling the country or the other. All of the people that have ruled this country have not systematically entrenched, a process of ensuring that every one of us feels the sense of Nigerianness, feels that we are part of one country, feels that that country can protect us beyond just holding a passport bearing the name of the country. And I think that is at the core of it. We also believe that non-state actors should not be allowed to overtake the state in the monopoly of the instruments of violence. If they do, definitely they're going to start cutting territories. So we may end up balkanizing Nigeria on two fronts. One, on the front of non-state actors taking over certain territory and declaring it their own, and two, on the basis of people agitating for self-determination. And I think that is not going to be in the interest of the country. We all are going to lose, we all are going to be diminished, and we all are going to end up in perpetual crisis if that happens.
We thank you very much, Mr. Sajoh. Mr. Paul Ejime is now with us. So, Mr. Ejime, if you're able to unmute yourself and give your presentation or your thesis on the subject of discussion tonight.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dan Elumba, for providing the platform for us to share these thoughts and ideas about our country and then the world. And also let me recognize distinguished guests that are there. Honorable Ahmad Sajoh, thank you. And then Chief Nwaezeigwe, I can see my brother with the red cap, and Professor Ukaegbu, thank you for the opening shot. I have also seen some other people joining in from across the world. I've seen Reginald Fuani and others, Migerem and so on. So you are all welcome. Well, I want to begin by saying, by opening like Professor Ukaegbu did, that on a positive note, that it is possible. All those exiting insecurity, yes. Self-determination, yes, it's possible. And then disintegration is also possible if things are not done the way they should be done. But let me begin with self-determination. Like Professor Ukaegbu said, if you go to the UN Charter, United Nations, Declaration of Human and People's Rights, 1948, that is where even states derive their existence. And it provides for the fact that if you are unhappy, if you are not being, if you are being discriminated against, if your rights are not respected, or in any way you feel marginalized or whatever, you have the right to air your opinion. And with other people in that group, you can decide to say, okay, listen, this place, like the kitchen, this kitchen is becoming too hot. Can I move to the sitting room or find a space? And that is the reason. Let's not forget that we used to have a Soviet Union that has been broken into so many states, Ukraine and others. They are fighting today. We used to have Yugoslavia. We know what it is today. even coming back to Africa, Tanzania has an island that is self-autonomous, okay, Zanzibar. In, where is it? Ethiopia. There used to be an Eritrea. They decided to go. Sudan used to be one country. Now we have Sudan and then South Sudan, and so on and so forth. Well, in our own case, Biafra tried it, but they failed. And so it has, but the UN recognizes that right, and which is inalienable to every human being. You can. But the question with Nigeria is that the solution? Everybody, and so give it to all those, everybody asking, by the way, it wasn't Biafra that started it. You used to have Araba, even during independence, and then Arewa, and so on, even before Biafra. So it's always been there. And what happens is that it's nothing like he said. We shouldn't give it a bad name or a negative connotation. But what has, and it has always been that the state from which you are trying to declare yourself will fight it. At times they want, they say, we talked about one Nigeria. Everybody talked about one Gawan beginning with go ahead with one Nigeria. That is what they try to do. So it is seldom that you find states surrendering the fact that one of its, it's like your children. One of them decides to say, no, I'm no longer part of it. A good parent will fight it and say, listen, can we come to the table and then talk about it, until it now becomes irreconcilable before it goes. But in the case of Nigeria, I think a lot has been said about the amalgamation of the Southern and the protectorates, the 1914 of Lugard and so on. But I think Nigeria still has more to gain as a unit, as a country, than all the going into pieces like so many people are suggesting. Of course, the grievances will always be there, and no section has a monopoly of grievance. If it's in the East, is it the West, is it the North, everybody will have their own. At one point in time, they will have reason to say, well, I'm not getting a bit of, and we're always used to sharing of cakes instead of baking. Some people will feel that this cake, the other side is getting more of it than the other. From time to time, at one point it will be, well, the Igbos in this place, they monopolized it, so we want to try to make it more equitable. The Yorubas have done so. The East, they are also doing so. But remember also that if Nigeria didn't start, after the amalgamation, the Midwest still had to, that is the only unit that went through referendum and got, be created normally according to the Constitution. They moved away from the West. That is when we had the regions. So these things are possible, but it is the way it is happening and what has given rise to it. And so that is what I think we should address. It is complex, it goes beyond, it's not straightforward, but it can be done in a way that we come back and look at the ground norm. And here we are talking about the Constitution. What has brought us together? The reason for our coexistence. Is it working? If it's not working, can we tweak it? That's why the legal experts talk about amendments, either to Constitution or changes to Constitution. And I think that is what we'll be looking at. If it's not working, can we sit together and look at why it is not working? Okay. A lot has been said about the fact that the Constitution, present Constitution, was handed down by the military. And so left some loopholes, some lacunas that people are, trying to unduly leverage in trying one section now becoming, having a lot of the pie. I think let us go back to that drawing board and then address some of these issues concerning the grievances. And that way, it will never cease. It is human to want to feel free, to want to be unfettered. But when you have a sense of belonging, it is really the magnitude, the way, the extent, the part of you that feels that you want to belong here, and the part that says, well, I have nothing here for me. I think that is what we'll address. And it is for the greater majority. For the majority, because you will always have minority airing some views, because you cannot satisfy everybody.
Well, thank you very much.
Let me stop here, then so that we move the conversation.
I'm sure you still have opportunities to give your thoughts on some of the issues that will be raised tonight. Let's now call on Dr. Nwaezeigwe to give his own 5 minutes presentation on our team. Before we start taking questions from those who are raising up your hand, please wait. Time for asking questions will soon come. Dr. Nwaezeigwe, please. If you can unmute yourself, sir.
Okay. Am I clear now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, let me be a little bit practical, because my colleagues have been theoretical all the way, and the present Nigerian situation is practical. I think our major problem today in Nigeria are predicated on two facts, two conditions, two probabilities. One, our continuity to exist as one United Nation. And secondly, the necessity for self-protection against the rampaging Fulani herdsmen. This is our major problem in Nigeria. And one actually gave room to the other. And that is the issue of the rampaging Fulani herdsmen. If they never existed, there shouldn't have been, if there was no case of insecurity, if there was no case of rampaging Fulani people, there shouldn't have been any call for secession. Jonathan was there was no serious cause about secession. Obasanjo was there was no serious cause about secession. Other military leaders have been there. There was no question of secession. So we must address it. And then, before we leave, I want us to look at certain issues. First of all, is that the Nigeria we have today was not intended to unite us as one people. It was established as a business venture by the British government. If you have the history of Nigeria from the establishment of the African Association by Bank in 1788, that pioneered, that supported the exploration, Niger expedition from Mungo Park to Clapperton Landa Brothers, and then to up Niger, to Niger expeditions after 1830, 1841 Niger expedition, 1851 Niger expedition, and 1857 Niger expedition. They were all aimed at satisfying the commercial interest of Great Britain. That is one. Secondly, we must bear in mind that Nigeria has never been one country. Before 1900, before British actually took effective control of this nation called Nigeria, I mean before 1900, Nigeria consisted of 3 countries. You have the Niger Coast Protectorate, which was once the Oil Rivers Protectorate before it was changed in 1893 to Niger Coast Protectorate, with capital in Calabar. You have the Niger Territory, run by Royal Niger Company with capital at Asaba. I have the Lagos Colony and Protectorate. These were the 3 countries before, before effective British takeover of Nigeria. And even in 1900, Nigeria was still 3 countries. You have the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria, with headquarters in Calabar. You have the colony of Lagos, with the capital in Lagos. And then you have the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria, with the capital in Zungeru. These were the 3 countries by 1900. By 1906, Lagos merged with protectorate of Southern Nigeria to become protectorate of Southern Nigeria. It became two countries. It was only in 1914 that the issue of amalgamation came up. And that issue of amalgamation was not easy because for long, the North refused to be part of Nigeria. It was in fact body law, when body law became the Governor General, that he tried to pacify them. They should come in. And it was a question of pacification, trying to pacify them. And they never believed that they're part of this country. And you can also see it from their manifest destiny. The Fulani have their own manifest destiny. And I want our argument today to be predicated on one part, on three, what we call Risala from Hadith. Risala is, is a pattern of relationship defined in Islam between the believers and unbelievers. Usman Danfodio gave them three facts in his Risala. He said, first, you should not befriend unbelievers. Two, if you should befriend them, you should befriend them because of their words in order to get their right. Tell you, if you also should befriend them, you should befriend them in order to gather strength to conquer them. These are the three points Risala Usman Danfodio gave his own people. And today, you can see that Risala operating. And again,
you have 1 minute more, sir.
Directly.
You have 1 minute for
October 12, 19.
You have 1 minute remaining for presentation.
Yeah, October 12, 1960, Ahmad Bello's statement. He said the new nation called Nigeria should be an estate of our great-grandfather Usman Danfodio. We must ruthlessly prevent a change of power. We use minorities in the North as willing tools and the South as a conquered territory, and never allow them to have control over their future. That was Ahmad Bello. And let us look at our present situation in Nigeria in the context of this before we go on. Thank you.
All right, we thank you very much for the fact that Dr. Sajoh, I understand you will be leaving earlier, so I will allow you to respond. I'm watching you shaking your head as Dr. Nwaezeigwe was making the presentation. I'll allow you to respond if you wish. That is, if you wish to, or if you want to speak on some other aspects of his presentation. Dr. Sajoh, please. No, you are still muted. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
Let me quick. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, let me quickly say that when you Nigerians by amalgamation are talking, those of us who are Nigerians by choice, you make us laugh. I come from a territory where we had to vote to become Nigerians in 1961, and we're watching you people. If you think that the Nigeria we voted to join is not going to work, we are already also preparing ourselves to speak to the United Nations to tell them that the territory you asked us to join by an electoral decision in 1961, that territory no longer exists. So please, return us back to what we were. But let me be very clear on certain issues. I think all this talk about a risala by Sheikh Usman Danfodio, a risala by Sheikh Usman Danfodio, Ahmad Bello saying these are not true statements. These are not facts. There is no such risala. Risala is a book, like you said, Things Fall Apart. Somebody cannot say that there's another Things Fall Apart produced by another person. I think we should stop, prejudicial statements in trying to find out, our direction as a people and as a country. I think we can do it without this too much sentiment and too much prejudice. Some of these statements being made all over the country are not true. They are not based on facts. Nobody is using anybody as a tool. Nobody is conquering anybody. The truth about it is that we, the elites, have collectively failed our country, we have failed our people, we have failed ourselves, and we are constructing narratives that do not help us in finding our way back to the path of progress and development. If anybody thinks that by balkanizing this country, we will have peace, he is telling himself a lie. Since the South Sudan left the Sudan as a country, they've not had peace. There are many countries in Yugoslavia that one of the professors is alluding to. The component units in Yugoslavia have never had peace till date. The Russia they're talking about, the component of Russia, Crimea, even Ukraine, they have never had peace. So we must first and foremost configure our peace around the situations we find ourselves. And how do we configure that peace? I said it before and I'm saying it again. If we do not establish a system that is anchored on social justice, if we do not establish a system that is anchored on political and economic justice to each and every individual, if we do not configure a system that favors merits over mediocrity, if we do not establish a system that understands that we are all human beings without any superiority of one over the other, we will never have peace. Even if we balkanize this country, we will only be sharing the contradictions that exist in the larger body in the constituent unit. We will continue to have these contradictions for as long as we do not look at the systemic failures that we are suffering as a nation. Systemic in the sense that the system itself is a failure. The system that is anchored on, where I come from, not what I am capable of doing, where my tribe, my religion, my region. These are the qualifications you have to bandy around to get whatever you want to get. And then you sit down and you blame every other person for the failures of whatever you cannot get in your own place, because, all of us have failed. The man who is the local government chairman in my village is not an Igbo man, he's not a Hausa man, he's a person from my own village. Your local government chairman is from your own village. Has he succeeded? No, he has failed. Our governors, are we posting our governors from other states? Our governors are our own people. Have our governors succeeded in changing our fate as a people? They have not. So what are we talking about? It's a systemic failure we are facing. A failure of a system that does not take into cognizance the interests of every one of us. We are all suffering from that situation. So we will not have peace unless we understand that we need to construct the system that is anchored on social and political justice and economic justice. I am telling you that today, Dan, if Nigeria decides to break into pieces, we are already working on writing to United Nations to say, we who voted to be Nigerians want to unvote, because we never voted to be a part of Nigeria, to belong to a part of Nigeria. We voted to be Nigerians. We voted to carry a Nigerian passport. If there is no Nigerian passport, we will not go with any other passport, whether it is Arewa, whether it is Middle Belt, whether it is Biafra or Ududua. We're not going to be part of any of you. We, from the areas that voted to become Nigerians in 1961, will also begin our own self-determination to return back to what we were, an independent entity before 1961. That, I must assure you, is what we're going to do. Because Nigeria had broken every promises they made to us. Nigeria had not given us social justice. Nigeria has not given us economic justice. Nigeria has not given us political justice. And we know that every part of this country feels the same way. And that's why people are agitating to leave. But we must, and on a final note, we must tell ourselves the truth. We have our children, we have our children's children. We cannot construct any system sustainable based on falsehood. Our people say, and that is very familiar, that you know. Our own people, the Igbo people say, the basis of reconciliation is always truth. Anything that is constructed on falsehood cannot reconcile the people who are living together. Thank you very much.
I thank you, particularly Dr. Sajoh, for this presentation. There are a lot of hands being raised, but please.
I have a question.
If I have a question, I can answer one because it's time for me to break my fast.
Okay,
please. Let me ask this question. You've used the word system over 15 times in your presentation. Unless we construct a system that assures social justice, equity, and all it, What does system mean to you in this case? What is system?
Thank you very much, Prof. A system is the entire gamut of our existence as a people. The rule, the reason, the term, the norms. What really constitutes our being as a people and as a country? Maybe perhaps you could say the Constitution is one of them, but you know, the operating systems, just like you have in a computer, you know, a computer is configured on operating systems. If you have a Windows operating system, you know you have a Windows operating system. When it's time for you to upgrade, you upgrade. The same thing. Our country is facing systemic problems. The Constitution is not serving everybody. The operational guidelines of our governance system, the governance itself, our governance is one of the most expensive, governance systems in the world. We have concentrated too much powers on people. To question people is even very difficult. People who are just elected and given the powers overnight become overlords, and then they become very impossible to approach, very impossible to reach. They are housed in very humongous structures and edifices. They are surrounded by people you cannot even reach, not to talk to them about what they want. There's nothing we're doing in this country that is systematically democratic. What we're doing is we're installing autocrats. We're running an autocratic system where the leadership or the rulership feels that they know much better than the people, and then the people are just there to take whatever is given to them. And at the end of the day, like I said, the system is not constructed on the fine tenets of social, economic, and political justice. There's no fairness, there's no equity, and in some instances, there's no inclusion. People are excluded from what they ordinarily should be part of. You know, the whole system is actually upside down. We are not working as a people that should watch each other's backs. Everybody looks at himself. Everybody protects only his personal interest as against collective interest. In fact, I cannot even understand what is our collective interest as a people, as a nation. Everyone speaks from a direction that you cannot even understand. We all seem to be antagonistic to each other. But why? Why? Because we are not fair to each other. We are not fair to ourselves. We are not fair to the system we operate, the government itself. We are not fair in all ramifications. And so until we reconstruct our country on the tenets of fairness, equity, inclusion, justice, we will not have peace, and we will not stop agitations. Agitations are byproduct of people being excluded. It's a byproduct of people not being treated justly. It's a byproduct of people not being treated fairly. It's a byproduct of people not feeling happy with the system.
We know all this, Ms. Ahmad. What is, you also use the concept here, unless we reconfigure our society to take into consideration all of these ideals, because all the things we are saying here are ideals, but ideals actually operate in a structure now, or in a system. Unless we reconfigure our society to embrace all of, what does reconfiguration mean to you? You use the word.
Reconfiguration includes what are the constitutional basis of our existence? Do these constitutional provisions, do they actually protect the interests of the ordinary person, or are they just instruments?
Dr. Sajoh, Dr. Sajoh, if I may interject here.
Yeah.
I don't know if Professor Ukaegbu will agree that what he's asking from you is, in what practical terms can the system be reconfigured to meet the aspirations of the Nigerian masses? In what practical ways?
Very simple. One, our constitution must be changed actually to be friendly. Secondly, we must, whether you call it restructuring or devolution or change, we must do something that increases the level of responsibilities at the lower rank of our society. people at the lower level must have greater responsibility for the people that they govern at their own level. We should reduce the overarching power of the center, making the center less attractive and making the regions and the lower level, the municipalities, very strong.
All right, thank you.
Today, I want to tell you this. Today, everybody living in Nigeria is his own municipal government. You can hear the sound of generator in my house. You provide your own electricity. We have a borehole. You provide your own water. We pay our security guard at the gate. You provide your own security. You repair the roads leading to your place, or you go into it. So what is the government doing for you? You are your own municipal government. And that is not what we expect in a system that works in the interest of the people. That's what I'm saying.
Well, thank you. I think Professor Ukaegbu, I believe that when asking these questions, you are one of our guests, you must have something in mind. What is your view, will be your own answer to the questions you are posing to Dr. Sajoh?
It is one thing to actually provide a list of ideals that a society or a group should uphold or create. It is quite another to have an instrument on which those ideals actually should operate. That was why I asked the question, what does reconfiguration mean, and what does a system mean? Now, in following up that question or that trend of thought, if you look at the definition of self-determination, it operates at different levels. It operates at the individual level. If you have your self-determination, you can have control of your existence. You can be motivated to do something more, something better, either for you or for the people around you. Motivation, either at the national level or at the regional level or at the level of individuals who opted to actually go out. So my thesis has always been that the more the regions are free to have their interests in their own hands, the better it is for every region. And good thing we have a structure now. That is the sixth region structure, where you have south, south, southeast, northwest, northeast, and all of those in between. This structure can be utilized in such a way that it brings out the best in each group. In the meantime, the structure we have does not bring out the best in various groups. Somebody sent me something yesterday on the percentage of percentage of dependence on
federal
allocation.
Federal allocation.
Exactly. Some people depend on it 90%. How can a region survive like that? Some people depend on it 80-something%. There is some, in economic development and urban development, there's what is called strong and weak regions. Strong regions actually is almost a country. And the center tries to support the regions when they have the resources. So the development of nations are actually in the regions. So when the regions 90%, 95%, 83% depend on the federal government, so if no money comes, nothing will happen. That is the let me use the word, or the ordinary word, that is the sorry thing about our system. But I'm arguing that if you have a political framework where 80% of political freedom is in each of these regions, that you will see the best. What you don't see in certain places. Now, the Southeast is called, oh, they're everywhere, they're this, they're that. If you actually give more political freedom to regions, you will find that those things that the region, some regions did not see were possible before, they will see it as possible. That is what self-determination does. Self-determination is an instrument of development. And the example given about Yugoslavia and all these places, Yugoslavia, yes, they fought, but it's in peace now. In fact, there was something I saw as I was researching this subject last night. I saw a statement credited to Pope Francis. I saw a statement credited to Pope Francis, and I don't know the circumstances in which that statement was made. Pope Francis said, if you go to Croatia or go to Montenegro or go to Kosovo and call them Balkans, they won't be angry, because that is what makes them happy and peaceful. And now the Montenegro, Kosovo, and Croatia and all those, the Serbs, they are now taking control of their development. And they're not going to, you don't hear them going to beg the other person, give us this, give us that. So my thesis still subsists. The more the political freedom, the more the self-determination of the regions, especially these 6 regions, the more the best will come out of each. Unless a region that doesn't want to bring out the best in its people. Thank you.
I thank you very much.
And I'm taking this, I'm taking this thesis, just one statement. I'm taking it from the 14 principles of Woodrow Wilson when the World War I ended. And that 14 principles is based on the principle of self-determination. Cultures, people should not be ruled by cultures that are not their own. That's what it means. Go and research it. And that helped to decentralize, disintegrate the Habsburg region and also all the Balkans we are having today. The more you do that, the more peaceful things become. That's what I'm saying. And the more people can actually have their destiny in their own hands. And my principle at the end is balkanize and cooperate. Take this statement, balkanize and cooperate. It doesn't mean that if you balkanize, you have gone forever. You can, Wilson said, negotiate self-determination equally, openly, by every group with equity. That's what Wilson said. Instead of war and all, no, negotiate it. And that is what people are talking about: national conference, sovereign national conference, etc. And I
thank you,
still
sir.
stand by that the principle of self-determination.
We thank you, sir. We will come back on this subject to you. We remind our listeners again that our topic for tonight is: can Nigeria exit insecurity, halt the clamor for self-determination by its constituent units, and prevent disintegration? Mr. Ali Baba Muhammad has been raising up his hand since the beginning of this conference. Mr. Ejime, we'll come back to you. You will have enough time to make your point. But let me call on Ali Baba Muhammad to unmute himself. Please, all those who are raising up their hand, if it is to make a comment, reduce it to 1 minute. If you want to make a comment as well as ask a question, then make it within 2 minutes. If it goes beyond 2 minutes, don't be offended if I stop you. Mr. Ali Baba Muhammad, please, if you are still here, can you unmute yourself and make a comment or ask your question? Mr. Ali Baba Muhammad, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. If you are no longer able to do that, I call on Mr. Eze Eluchie to either ask your question or make a comment. All must be within 2 minutes. Okay. Please. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. If you're hearing me, my comments are just basic. That one, regarding insecurity, where the state itself, I'm talking of the federal government itself, is manifestly biased in favor of one of the constituent ethnic groups in the country, we cannot, under this structure, exit the insecurity situation because the federal government is biased in favor of the Fulani herdsmen. And regarding the continuity of the Federation of Nigeria, look at all these European countries you've mentioned, Macedonia, Croatia. Several European countries are less than 10 million. In fact, more than half of Europe have a population of less than 10 million. In Nigeria, you have states that have more than 20 million. So we certainly cannot manage this side. The earlier we balkanize and cooperate, like the last speaker said, like the professor just said, I mean, we'll move forward. But to control Nigeria as an entity, as one federal structure, no way. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Ejime, how will you respond to this issue? Do you think, because our team actually is, can Nigeria exit insecurity? Now, Mr. Zeluchi has said that unless Nigeria balkanizes, then that insecurity cannot end. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure that balkanization per se is going to give us the solution. Because what you will do then is you transfer some of these grievances. I mean, that is what it is. The insecurity we have now is that some people are angry. They have some beef with whether it is the fact that we heard that they were promised certain things before election and that has not been delivered. There's another theory that there are people from across the neighboring countries that belong to the same stock that, you know, is a Fulanization or Islamization. These are theories that we've been hearing. And if you listen to them too, perhaps they will have something to say about the fact that they are not happy with what is happening. That is why they are up in arms. You listen to, and by the way, let me address what, I don't know whether he's still there, Honorable Sajoh. He was talking about we, some people, I don't know the people he was referring to as we.
He's referring to the people of the Northeast Nigeria. You know that in 1961, Northeast Nigeria, that is Adamawa, and so they were there and the Southern Cameroon. They voted whether to join Nigeria or to join Cameroon. So, yes.
No, that is not the way to go about it. We have existed now for more than 60 years. And this idea of we, me, I, my region, this, is because the center is not delivering. I don't know how many people that are ready, are so patriotic to die for Nigeria today. And why? You know, you hear with the US, with all these problems, when hundreds of Nigerian students are being abducted here and there, one American is abducted in Nigeria and everybody works to make sure that that one person is released. I'm not talking fiction, I'm not talking theory. It happened. So why is America so determined to protect its citizens? Because this is when you belong, when you have that sense that you belong to a system, and I will explain system now, that is when you'll be willing to sacrifice, to give your life for it. So we have run away. I think Sajoh also was trying to dodge the issue about constitution. He says it's a system. What is a system? We are talking about grand norm, constitution. It's a German word. You people remember Grundig, very solid kind of thing that we used to have. It derives from there. Something that is so, the existence depends on it. And that is what we have running today is a unitary system. The military, Nigeria was a federation, but now the military turned it into a unitary system. That is why the center is so powerful, that the regions have become so, reduced to nothingness. They now, every month, go to governors, go to Abuja to collect their share of what when in those days, regions were self-sufficient. They could manage. The East depended, you had palm oil, you had coal, West, you had cocoa, even North. There used to be not pyramid. But I hear Professor Ukaegbu now saying that today, some units that we have carved out solely depend on 80 to 90% on what you get from the center. Those people will not allow you to leave. That is the point. There is a push and pull, factor that is there. Some people they want to pull out. Others are saying no, because of what we are getting, we have to remain there. But it cannot be by force. This can be negotiated. This can be talked about, and it has to be from what defines our existence. We have decided to agree to exist together. Why must we do? And I'm getting the wrong end of the stick. So look at the Constitution, and until we do that, this issue of that we can never correct it. We must insist that is done. There was the Constitutional Conference. Jonathan did it and never implemented it. It can be, gradually. It might not be a full sweep, fell swoop that you come and do everything. You can do them in a way that you begin now to unbundle the center, to make the regions more powerful than the center. So that, why are people so determined? Why are they so desperate to become a president? Why must somebody become a president of a country when you know you cannot deliver, or a governor? There is something there that is not to serve. It is there to come and loot or favor some people, but we have to make it impossible for that to happen. And it can be negotiated. Let us, but are Nigerians ready? That is the issue. It is not a case of saying it. You have to do it. And that is where I stand on it. Yeah. It can be done. And whatever they say about who is enjoying today, when that recalibration is done, when that change, transformation, or are done, whether it is by the 6 geographical zones or whatever, the Constitution has to define that. Now that Constitution does not favor a federal system. It is not working. So we have to change it. All right, thank you, sir. We will come back to you. Your speech raises some questions, but let me see whether the questions from, okay, Ali Baba Muhammad, you are back now. Can you ask your questions or make your comments within 2 minutes? Are you able to unmute? Yes, you can unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, although you are dark, but go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Sincerely, I want to almost totally align with Mr. Sajoh. Because it really beats me that people, there's a saying that the hood makes not the monk. The problem is systemic and is spread liberally across the entire nooks and crannies of this country. So I think it amounts to living in denial for some people to expect or to feel that it is when they are in a tribal enclave that it will automatically become an El Dorado. For instance, the altercation between Uzodinma and Okoro Chana, none of them is from Zamfara. Neither is anyone from Ekiti. Yet, and they succeeded each other. And see now they can't even agree. So the issue of people going into tribal enclaves and expect that will automatically eliminate the existing problem, when, like Sajoh said, is systemic. And of course, attitudinal. There's hardly any misgovernance because that is the basis of it. All this frustration, like they say, is because there is lack of social and economic justice. And this is spread everywhere. So I don't see how you are ethnicity when, besides, everyone knows that the same persons that have made this one impossible will be the ones that will inherit any tribal enclave. None of the fringe persons speaking now, because they are mostly on the fringe. By and large, whether it is restructuring or succession, it has to be done through the established constitutional means. 20 years now, nobody has made any move such motion. We have had amended this constitution 2 or 3 times. No such moves have been made by the presently declared, elected representatives of the people. Anybody making noise are usually self-declared. For anybody to claim to be speaking for the people without a mandate amounts to even a fraud to me. So most of the people talking and pretending to be representing people are largely self-appointed. So it's fraudulent for you to expect that somebody that has been elected, you have a superior mandate simply because you come out the suburbs or you have access to the media to rabble-rouse. So, like I said, Ireland completely is a systemic problem and requires reorientation of the entire people. We have to be determined that we want to institute social justice from the world to the local government to the state and the federal level. No ethnic enclave will give you that. Right. So long as people have not determined to change their mind. It's a change of mind from the bottom up and top down.
Thank you. So okay. I think you've made a very... Yeah, Mr. Muhammad, I hope you don't leave. You've made a very important... You have raised a very important issue that I would like Dr. Nwaezeigwe to respond to. Dr. Nwaezeigwe, do you agree that the problems of insecurity and agitations for disintegration are mainly sponsored by frustrations within the system, frustration within the system
that is a systemic issue which can be solved if the system is reconfigured, as suggested by Mr. Sajoh and now supported by Mr. Mohammed. Dr. Nwaezeigwe, please.
I think both of them are playing with, they're in a state of political gambling. They are not realistic. In fact, most of the people speaking have not been realistic. The issues are on ground. I'm on exile today, working on clutches because of DSS assault on me. Many people are being killed every day. Many people are rampaging every part of the nation. The other time, a pastor was even killed in his own church while he was praying. Even bishops, even governors have been attacked. And nobody has addressed the issue of security here. They're talking about restructuring. They're talking about systemicity. Listen, I'm a historian and I can play with vocabularies. But this is not time for vocabularies. We're talking, none of them has addressed the issue of Fulani herdsmen. None of them have addressed the issue of banditry. None of them have addressed the issue of agitation, of independence. These are not systems. These things have nothing to do with the system. We're not talking of manifest destiny. In fact, Mr. Sajoh does not even understand his own history when he's talking about their living. What is happening in southern Cameroon today? Anglophone Cameroon. The same people who left Nigeria and joined, they're not declaring Ambazonian state. They're fighting over there. And he's talking about their living. Well and good. If he wants to go back and join Ambazonian, it's the same battle. But what we're saying is that Nigeria cannot move forward presently. The Fulani people, and my brother was talking, my brother Ejime was talking about theoretical. There's nothing about theoretical about insecurity in Nigeria. It is practical. You see, because some of you in England, you enjoy burger, you enjoy, my friend Elomba was taking tea here, while we're even talking of the Garitu. So you don't understand the realities in that. Let Nigerians speak. People are listening, people who are in Nigeria, let them speak about insecurity and not about theoreticals. Nigeria is in problem. Nigeria is in chaos. I'm in exile today. I left my work. I'm on clutches because of the same thing. And people are talking about system. People are talking about tribal sentiment. Is it a theoretical fact that Fulani people are out to launch, are launching jihad on the whole Nigerians? They are sending Fulani herdsmen who are not even Muslims. The herdsmen are not Muslims. You never see any single herdsman in mosque praying. They are traditionalists. And then they're using them for conquest in the name of Islamic jihad. It is barefaced hypocrisy. I have to address it. Let us address the issue of security, which is the major impetus, which the major leveling force for whatever self-determination, for whatever secession, and for whatever separating that is going back to Nigeria here. So please, let us be realistic. Let that young man address the issue of insecurity. He's talking about Okocha and these are lekis of Hausa Fulani. They don't represent their people. And for him to talk of elected people represent, people are never elected. People were appointed. In the North, we saw keys, 5 years, printing, voting for the last presidential election. I'm telling me about, do Nigerians vote in elections? I'm telling me elected people. Okorocha and Osodima do not represent their place. They've always been seen as Fulani, lekis, and that is what they do. So if they fight over, they're fighting over the dirty resources they acquire from the Fulani masters and not for the interest of their people. That's my position.
All right. We thank you very much. CJ Odunukwe, please. Your question or comment this time, if you are able to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not really going to ask any question. I've heard what they're saying. My comment is that all well and good for whatever they're saying. I agree completely with the last speaker that the major problem is not that Nigeria cannot survive, but you cannot survive if you want to survive. First of all, the truth must be sacrosanct. One, truth and justice. Those are the only two things that can pull Nigeria back from the precipice. And the current drive by NINAS, which is organization of the Middle Belt, Southwestern people or Yoruba people, and the Lower Niger Congress, they are bid to unseat the Nigerian constitution and ask the people to draw a new roadmap forward. I think that if everybody supports it, it will completely be the new way forward. It may ultimately lead Nigeria back from being balkanized. But if the people want to balkanize Nigeria, they can always do that and live in peace rather than in pieces. That's my comment. Thank you.
I thank you very much. I would have loved Mr. Ahmad Sajoh to respond to your comment, but it appears he has excused himself to break his fast. In his absence, even though Mr. Ali Baba is not one of our guests, I would like Muhammad to come in here because I know he's from Niger State. So the last speaker had mentioned about Ninas.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, what do you think, Muhammad, what do you think about Ninas and what they are trying to achieve? Do they have the hope, do they present a hope or a system for exiting Nigeria out of insecurity and hold the quest for disintegration? Ninas?
Who is Nina?
Oh. Okay.
I can answer that question if you don't mind.
Yes. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. What is Ninas?
Ninas is a Nigerian, new Nigeria, an association of people who are trying to recreate Nigeria in a new, by getting the current constitution completely gone, and then asking the Nigerian people from different groups in Nigeria to sit, mean how and what, by self-determination, how and where, how best to continue, if they want to go, if they want to rebuild Nigeria, on what basis. And that's essential.
Yeah, so Muhammad,
now I get his point, but I think Nina are also just like others, they are just fringe elements that want to be noticed. Whoever wants anything to do has to go through it. If you say you are decision this, then who will supervise whatever new system you want to do? This basically is the most theoretical of postulation. Whatever you want can be changed or restructured under the present arrangement, except you have a military coup that will suspend the constitution. There is no way you can put something on nothing and expect it to stand. You will throw away this constitution. Then what empowers you to do what you are doing? So whoever wants anything to do, if you want to be realistic, is to go through this existing constitution. It can even be decision, but it has to go through the process it's happening now. Whatever you want to change can be changed. But you see, when you have fringe people that only have access to the media and they are around, because so long as you will not go through established system, you will remain just like, for instance, now, most of the Southwest faction that is presently in this government, they were the Nadeko. Nobody chanted restructuring more than them. It's 20 years now. None of them has moved a single motion. So most of this nonsense, rabble only want to get notice, and then the privileges they are either lost or they are coveting for. Because these groups, if they can mobilize the National Assembly can effectively mobilize the people. It can even be the agenda for the next election. And then they can have their way to do it. But they want the lazy way out. How can you throw away our constitution? And then you exist on what? It's not possible now.
Yes, thank you very much, because that is the question. Ninas yesterday held a world press conference, which I watched. It was also well attempted on the online media. In other words, they have declared a force majeure, that it is the people of Nigeria that should come out and say this 1999 constitution, they say it's a fraud, because when they say we the people, that we the people never sat down to make a constitution, and therefore it is the people who will now come and say we the people meet together, enact a different constitution, and consign that 1999 constitution to the dustbin. Let me invite Professor. I know others are sorry?
Okay, sorry. I would have said, this is a replica of the 1978 constitution. And no constitution in our living memory has undergone the kind of process that one went through.
That's not true.
No constitution has ever gone through what the process 1978 constitution went through. And this is an exact copy. So anybody blaming the Constitution, I think, is not being realistic.
Okay.
Whatever it is, I think it can still be amended using the existing system. But it's a replica of
Okay. I thank you very much. Let me call on Professor Chikwendu Ukaegbu because, Professor, you are a professor of sociology and global development. Do you think that it is possible for the people to act outside the existing constitution by whatever means apart from a military coup to say, we do not accept this present constitution because it is imposed upon us. We want to make a new constitution and overthrow that old constitution without a military coup. Have that happened anywhere in the world? Is it possible? Professor.
Well, there are, you know, I don't want to use, there are changes that happen without violence, you know, in certain situations. But I want to keep ourselves to the issue of Nigeria. And I was writing something here about we the people. The last speaker, it will answer your question, you know, Dan. He said a constitution that will say we the people. We now don't like existing constitution, and we're trying to create a new one, and everybody will vote for it. And that actually is a failure of understanding the constraints of the geopolitics of Nigeria. Anytime anybody feels that there will be a consensus on such a matter, doesn't understand how Nigerian configuration actually keeps us the way we are. Let me give you an example. You're telling me that as Buhari is the president of Nigeria now, that the Northerners will come and vote with the people, we fight against this constitution, including the Northerners, and then we have a new one that will give people what they want. It won't happen. You are telling me also that if tomorrow Tinubu becomes president, even though I don't know, but I'm just giving you an example, that somebody comes and says, we want to kill this constitution and create a new one, that Yorubas will vote for it. They won't. So it will be with the Igbos. So it will be with the, let me give you an example of this. Do you remember when Abiola won an election and lost it and didn't get it because of military annulment? It was only the Yorubas who fought stridently against that. If you look at the newspapers of that time and look at the names of people who died in the riots, 90%, 99% of them, I researched it very well. I have a 400-page manuscript on it. Only Yoruba names you will see, and a few from Edo. The Igbos kept quiet. On the fence, it's not a problem. I went to the market and one woman said, it's now for the Yorubas to fight. We clap for them so that they know what it means to be a second-hand citizen, a second-class citizen. The Hausas in the north were actually bad-mouthing the Yorubas, say that they were actually fighting against the federal government for nothing. You see how Nigeria is configured? Something that should have been cause for national search for justice. It was disintegrated this way. So Hausas, we are fighting against Yorubas by mouth. Igbos, we are standing on the fence. Yorubas, we are actually into it because it was their own that was actually prevented from taking. I can give you 10 other examples of Nigerian phenomenon where that has happened. So the issue of we the people, that everybody in Nigeria will come together and say, it's not going to happen. It's also the simplicity of believing that there could be a national revolution in Nigeria with everybody. So that is where I stand by that. On the issue of security, which Odogwu Nwaezeigwe mentioned, security occurs in a context. Security takes place in a given context. And that is why when people talk about structure, they are taking everything into consideration. the type of structure you create will then determine whether the Fulani herdsmen will actually take their cows, you know, and guns and kill, or whether any other person will go to some other person and kill other people. Structure is fundamental. It takes care of these other factors. So whether security is economic security or cultural insecurity, you know, it depends on structure. And I want Nwaezeigwe to have that in mind. We cannot be focused on it that way without looking about the geopolitics of Nigeria and East Coast. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Mr. Ejime, I will come back to you just now, if you will allow me, because Louis Mbol, maybe his question may be aligned with what you want to, the response you're about to give. He's been raising up his hand for a very long time now. So, Louis, can you please unmute yourself and then make a comment and ask a question, and then Mr. Ejime will have to respond to the previous issues and whatever you may have to say. Mr. Mbolu, please.
Oh, thank you very much. Can I be heard?
Yes, go ahead.
Are you? Oh, sorry. Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
I thank God for the area of views. For the area of views that have been expressed here. The summary of what I want to say is this. Unfortunately, the present federal government has run Nigeria amok. We have to be realistic. Buhari-led government has shown vicious wickedness against Nigerians. For example, I'm a lawyer, sir. We all saw the recent appointment at the Court of Appeal. The federal government, you mindlessly, unconsciously cause the appointment of justices greatly from northern side. And these are people that will preside over appeals from different courts, from high courts to Court of Appeal, by a section of the country. You've seen that. You've seen our appointment. Okay, the IG. You want us to be patriotic. The former IG is gone. And he mindlessly, unconscionably put in another Fulani. The whole actions of the government, present government, are provocative. So the truth of the matter, the summary, I don't want to speak grammar. The summary is that Nigeria should pack up. Nigeria has been packed up. Packed up. So the best is, if it means approaching the United Nations, they preside over the liquidation, final liquidation of this country, that will make amends. Like we said, there's no way. It's obvious that there's no way now, if you try, like Dr. Tony said, he saw, he see his effort to to question some of the things happening in Nigeria before he ran into exile. One of it was the suit a fire. The issue of questioning the actions of the government, the obvious Fulanization. Everybody can see it, see the appointments of the federal government of Nigeria. All the service chiefs are from the north. I mean, what is all that? Almost all the service chiefs are from the north. And you want other regions to be patriotic. And if we are protesting now to get this thing right, you will be eliminated. Yeah, I mean, the country. Yeah, like he said one thing. Those of us in Nigeria, as I speak, you can see the different protests everywhere, strikes everywhere. Lawyers were being out of job. Practicing lawyers, litigation lawyers for that matter, have been out of job since the lockdown. Yes, because like in Lagos State, those of us are practicing in Lagos State. Lagos State, I think about 2 weeks ago was when Lagos State lifted the lockdown practically, because he stopped, asked workers to now go back to the office instead of working from home. After about a week, we approached Easter. After the Easter break, the following day, we are locked down again because the Jusan are now on strike. What has the federal government done to stop them? In fact, the very day, I think about the time Jusan commenced the strike was when a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria exited the country. Doctors went on strike too, now for lawyers, and nobody's talking about it. Sir, the frustration is everywhere. We can't travel. So the truth of the matter, you can't even, there's no basis to, the climate is not conducive for any discussion whether Nigeria will move on or not. Nigeria cannot move on.
Thank you.
Please, the point I'm making is that any system that will make us, Nigeria should be packed and we make amends. Because there's no way do any fun. Okay, when certain people, if you want to, certain people should come now to. The only meeting that we allow now is like type of meeting like the one that Tinubu attended or that Arewa program protected by government. If you this good gathering is made physical now, we take a place where we want to meet. You can be sure that the ESS will stop it, where this type of view will be expressed. So we don't have a country, sir. My view is that Nigeria should pack up. Nigeria has packed up. From whichever method from United States or United Nations should provide a forum through which Nigeria will remake Nigeria. That is my view, sir.
We thank you. All right, Mr. Ejime, we'll now come back to you.
Okay, let me begin by bringing some ray of hope. A brother who spoke, if the younger ones were to listen to him, I think he's not inspiring any hope in the project Nigeria. And as much as possible, as bad as things can be, let us remember, and let me, just speak to what some of the guests have said. Professor Ukaegbu talked about the 1983 election. And that after that, most of those who, yes, most of them. But remember people like Kanu, remember Nwaezeigwe, remember there are many. In fact, that was one election that brought everybody together. So it's not impossible to rally the pro-Nigerian movement that can bring a change that one. Abiola was not from the East. He wasn't from the North. But from what was happened before that election was truncated, he was undeclared, but actually people knew that he won because look at the result from the East. He's not from the East. And those who fought for Nedeko was not made up of just Yorubas. There were Igbos, there were Hausas in it, saying, listen, we cannot stand on this. But the military had their way. That is one. Two, is that packing up, for me, is self-defeatist. We are given knee-jerk reaction to, and I agree that you look at it from both micro and macro level of what should be done to exit insecurity. And then to also minimize, you cannot eliminate the issue of self-determination, the right of people. Let us remember that today we are talking about Fulani herdsmen. We remember that at one point, there was something called the Niger Delta people, militants. Abuja was bombed, the UN building. It wasn't the Fulani, it was a section of Nigeria that got really dissatisfied, had a grievance against the government. You also remember Ogoni, what led to the killing of Kensaro Wiwa, and all that and all that. It goes, the only perhaps difference is that now there seems to be a lack of consequence. There is impunity that has supported what is happening now. And that is why everybody is feeling the pinch. And I can tell you, both the Northerners, the Easterners, the Westerners, everybody is feeling it. It is just that, people are just there looking at this pot. When it breaks, what is going to happen? We have stayed in this and that is not an excuse to let it, or Nigeria, some people will say that it's too big to fail. Nigeria can fail, but Nigeria has so much going for it that brings, the merits are more than the demerits. It is about this constitution. And then I agree that the National Assembly today has constituted, or even the state assemblies, they are all, in the pockets of those who are ruling, of the ruling class, and who have a stake in keeping the status quo. Let's not run away from there. And so what do? What we can do, neighbor, we have Burkina Faso here. A Blaise Compaoré was running roughshod over his people for 27 years, even to the point after he killed his friend, Sankara. For 27 years, at one point, even as a military person, we had Abacha. This man wanted to continue, but the citizens came out on the street in thousands and millions and say, listen, we are not, and Burkina Faso has its own ethnic diversities, but they all coalesced. They all came together. So how can we get this critical mass of people to say no? Because if you ask the National Assembly as constituted today, probably they will not, and Mohammed is saying, go through the normal channel. If you go through that, they will kill it. So both the National Assembly has become a problem, the legislature is a problem, the judiciary is a problem, the executive is a problem, but there is the people power.
Now let's go to the, thank you, sir. Let's go to the solution now.
Let me just conclude that Nina is one. There can be many Ninas. Let them come. Let Nigerians come on the street. Look at Miami, what is happening. There's a military man. We used to have, what is it, Hitler. We had all these people, dictators, people who will not want to, but the Abacha was removed, for whatever reason, there was a Nadeko that fought Abacha. There can also be a pro-democracy group that will have the groundswell of support to dislodge all the anti-democratic forces that are pulling Nigeria together, are pulling Nigeria apart, that have made it possible to have this, insecurity. I think it can be done, but are Nigerians ready for it? That is the big question.
We thank you, Mr. Ejime, so far. My question would be, before we go on to the solution, because we'll soon be rounding up in the next 15 minutes. The difference about today's Nigeria state of insecurity is that for the first time in the history of the country, there is massive problem in the northwestern part of the country. Zamfara, Kebbi, even some parts of Sokoto state is boiling. Bandits are killing and sacking whole villages. In the northeastern part of the country, we have the Boko Haram. In Borno, Yobe state, and even down to Bauchi state. In Katsina state, bandits are terrorizing the populace. You move down to southern Kaduna, in Plateau state, in Benue state, people are being killed in their hundreds every day. Some of them are no longer making the news. It is only some of us who have contacts in some of these places that we have to know. In the southwestern part of the country, people are being killed in their tens every day. Southwest, southeast, south-south. To what extent is impunity contributing to some of these killings and insecurity? Because till date, we have not had a single person arrested, prosecuted, and jailed for this state of insecurity in the country. Or are they being killed extrajudicially? Maybe we don't know. So I would like our guests to address themselves to this question. To what extent has impunity contributed to the state of insecurity in Nigeria? And then we move on to the final concluding stage of solutions. Can we please take 2 minutes to address this question of impunity? Let's start from Professor. Sorry?
I thought I was going to be able to say something because what you...
All right.
Please, unmute the person who wanted to speak.
Oh yeah, he's muted.
Let's please unmute the. Please unmute.
Ngerem, I think.
It's a CJ or Nwankwo who wanted to speak.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, please, if you. I'm sorry that I'm not one of your panelists, but what you have for your question answers itself in the sense that Abacha. I know we've mentioned Abacha. Abacha said that any disturbance or security challenges in a country that the government does not know and quell in 48 hours.
Before we proceed, Mr. Nwankwo, are we really sure that Abacha made that statement?
I don't know, but I've read it several places. And,
we've been reading a lot of things attributed also to some persons. I don't know, but I'm only asking. Did Abacha actually make that statement? We've read it all the time. And I always tend to question a statement, even though I may have seen it 1,000 times, that doesn't make me to accept unless I can attribute it to a credible media, certain date and time where that person actually made that statement, because the statement is suspect, even though I've seen it for the past 10 years or so. But continue with what you're saying.
I've seen it sort of past 10 years. Unfortunately, I have not lived in Nigeria since Babangida, so I've been in exile for a long time. And what I was saying is that I actually believe that thesis, even if Abacha didn't say it. So with all of what is going on, and nobody being charged, even when people are being arrested, and nobody is being used to show people example of what, and government is allowing people to pay ransom to so-called bandits, and yet nothing is happening, shows that the government actually is the bandit.
Okay.
So that's my comment. Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for that insightful contribution. Then, Dr. Nwaezeigwe, please.
Well, you see, your theory of not believing certain things as a journalist is complicated, because unless you're a researcher where certain things will be written and the reference is made, you will not understand. There are certain references verbally, can be, they could be authentic. But what we are saying really is that Nigeria is in a chaotic situation. The government has failed. And as I'm telling you now, the East, you see, you could see a situation where for 3 hours, bandits came, danced for 30 minutes in front of the governor's residence, and they moved to the prison. They call it correctional. I don't agree with that correctional center, whatever. What are they correcting? There's nothing like correctional in Nigerian prisons, because I've been to Nigerian prisons. You don't correct anybody there. You even make them more criminals. So I don't. They went to the prison, released all the people, went to police headquarters, released people there, bought the vehicle and left. No single person is caught today. We are talking in Imo State where you don't even have forests. Every place, if you are traveling from Onitsha, right over it is all interconnected. No forest separating them. And yet, no single separation. And then, herdsmen will come over and kill. I was surprised that Sheikh Hussaini, you see, a Fulani is always a Fulani. I was surprised when I have Sheikh Hussaini condemning the killing of traders, northern traders in the East. The same Sheikh Hussaini has not opened his mouth to condemn the massacre of Fulani people in the East. That is what we are talking about. So the position now is Nigerians should be prepared to come out and save themselves. I am not a believer about secession, but the only way you can bring Nigeria together where it's like a professional tailor. You get a new cloth, you cut it into pieces in size, then join it together. That is what Nigeria needs now. Otherwise, if you are talking of secession, it might become even more chaotic because there's no roadmap now. You see, there's no roadmap. The only people who have roadmap about secession are only the Yoruba. Because the Yoruba have been, I worked with OPC, I was right from OPC time under they've already drawn the roadmap. Only the Southwest has roadmap about secession. Not even East, not even the South, not even everybody. So it's going to be chaotic. So the only thing is for Nigeria to come out and say, enough is enough. Give us security. And then let the Fulani herdsmen go back to the north.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Mohammed, like I said before, even though you are not one of our panelists today, but since Mr. Sajoh is not here, I will allow you to fill in his space.
For him, right? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. I think personally, this one has thrown up another issue that a lot of us overlook, and that is the issue of the judicial and adjudicatory system even in places where these things work, it's because there are consequences for violation of the laws and regulations of the land. For instance, now, somebody has asked, nobody has been made example, and I agree. See the case of the billionaire alias Evans, or whatever it is. His case is still snaking its way through the court system, even though both defense and prosecutors have finished their presentation. He still can't even be sentenced. Talk less of the thousands and thousands that may have been arrested. And that I agree, but we need to focus on the judiciary and the adjudicatory system. So this overemphasis on the executives actually overlooks some of the fundamental issues. Same with the National Assembly. They have the power of the purse, they have the power of oversight, they have the power of censuring the system. In fact, it's the most fundamental difference between a military government and the civilian or democratic system we're running. But they are virtually ineffectual from state up to federal level. So what I expect is that a lot of us that sit on the fence will continue to blow grammar, should need to connect with the people, invade the political space and take over and practice what we glibly talk about. This change can only be effected by human beings, not by any other person. Everybody has grievance. This insecurity we're talking about is all over the place. So, and the issue of this, allowing ourselves to be brainwashed into planization or whatever, you are merely alienating the unified force you need to fight misgovernance. Because by the time you have declared me an enemy, why should I join you? I will face my front. So this, for instance, now somebody say the IGP, the last one was Fulani. This man is a Mada from Nasarawa. This one too is likely to be Kare. So any northerner, any person across the north is regarded as a Fulani. Is either mischief or ignorance. So we need to face the fundamental issues. This insecurity is largely due to misgovernance. And personally, I believe corruption contributed to it because I feel the military has never had any better opportunity to make money as they have made under this insecurity. A lot of them are filthy rich. And that is how, without realizing it, they have allowed the little rascals to become monstrous and overrunning every place. If they had focused in, see from the Dasuki gate now, even the current NSA, he lamented that the money voted wasn't used for what it was dedicated. So these are the fundamental issues underpinning insecurity, not neither silly planization or whatever. Everybody is feeling the pinch. It doesn't even make sense that you expect Zamfara. If I want to planize, why do I need to sponsor the attack on my own people? See Boko Haram now. I believe if Abacha was alive, everybody will know that Boko Haram is being wrecked by Kanuri. To be no political point to be scored by emphasizing their ethnicity. So this ethnicity of Fulanization is simply because of Buhari. So we had better face the fact that this insecurity is pervasive and everybody wants a solution because that's the primary essence of government. So we need to focus on the fundamentals. Judicial overhaul, eliminating corruption, and of course, holding our governments from local government to state to federal level accountable. But by the time we insist on ethnization, on sectionalization, we're only giving, blank check to these manipulators who don't really believe in any ethnicity or religion or whatever. All that the ruling elites believe in are their own personal or narrow group interests. They don't fight themselves. Now, even if they do is a stunt, most of the time they eventually make up. Exploitation is what unites them. So the masses still need to unite. And just like somebody says, not necessarily come on the street, but connect and vote for those people that will really represent them. Because whatever we talk, so long as you don't have popular mandate, you're only a rabble-rouser. You're a fringe person. That's how I see it.
Thank you. Within a short while, we will be asking our guests to make their concluding statements with regards to solution. But before we do that, Ezeluche is here. I don't know if you're able to collect your thoughts because I don't know whether you'll be prepared to address this issue raised by Muhammad Alibaba. If Nigeria has good governance, if the police are doing their job, arresting and prosecuting those who commit crimes, whether banditry or terrorism or whatever, and then if the judiciary, you are a lawyer, if the judiciary are up to their responsibilities to make sure that every suspect brought before them is speedily tried and jailed, if the legislators are doing their job, properly overseeing the executive arms of government, if corruption is minimized, will this state of insecurity be what we are seeing today? Mr. Ezeluche, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, thank you very much. The basic problem is that the Nigerian federal structure is fraudulent from the very onset. We ordinarily ought to have three arms of government: the executive, the judiciary, and the legislative arms. But what we find in Nigeria is that both the judiciary and the legislative arms are mere appendages. They are actually toothless. They rely on the executive for everything. So I think we become mischievous when we now begin to say it's not just executive, the parliament, National Assembly, the judiciary should do this and that. No, it doesn't work in Nigeria, because the system has been so warped that those other two arms have been rendered useless, and everything relies and rests on the executive. Why the issue of security becomes a very serious challenge is Nigerians are now beginning to perceive that the executive arm is now directly engaged in destabilization and creating insecurity across the country. And I say this with all seriousness. Like one of the last speakers just mentioned what transpired in Owerri during the so-called jailbreak and attack on the state police headquarters. Anybody who is familiar with Owerri knows that that thing was not possible without direct federal government involvement. The brigade headquarters of the Nigerian Army was less than 5 minutes drive from the prison that was where these prisoners were released. The state police command headquarters is next door. The governor's house is across the road. And every time you have military armored cars stationed in that area. Now, when these criminals get released, they operate for about 4 hours, not a single intervention from either the police, army, navy, anybody. And somebody's telling you that, in fact, within 12 hours, Mr. President, who was still in London, made a press release that it was terrorist actions. The Minister of Justice and the IG made comments blaming IPOB. So what I'm trying to say is that when we now begin to perceive and realize that there is direct federal government involvement in creating instability, and security problems in the country, the case becomes very, very worrisome. Because who do you call upon to douse the situation? Is it the army? Is it the police that have shown express bias? Now, the issue is not whether it's Fulani, but in Imo State, in Owerri, we saw it graphically come to play that something is wrong with the system. And we joke when we talk of insecurity when such a thing is going on. And when the Mohammed, I think, was addressing these issues, he said we cannot direct the blame on one place and all that stuff. Unfortunately, the Fulanis we've known Fulanis in this country. They've been moving around with their cows for years without this amount of crisis. Everything has come to this level because we have at the center a president who, right from the very onset, has been clearly pro his people. He has never served as a Nigerian president. He pushes the agenda and interest of one ethnic group, and he has so empowered them and given them the audacity to go and attack and cause instability all over the country. But let us call a spade a spade. Nobody hates the Fulanis. During my service, I served in Kaduna. I used to go to a friend's place in Funtua, a Fulani, and we'll stay in his house, despite it was Bashiga. I mean, we were that close. But the president has unfortunately now portrayed the Fulanis as the enemy of all. And he has put this very once docile and once peaceful tribe in a quagmire. Because one day, Buhari must leave office. What does he think will happen if we don't begin to correct this perception by all Nigerians, not just the Igbos or the Yorubas or the Thieves? Everybody feels that the Fulanis are a problem, and they are not. They are not. We have people who have tried to mess up a very gentle and peaceful tribe. Nigeria is still good, but with this current leadership, with this current rulership we have in Nigeria,
thank you.
I don't see us moving forward. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Now, to our guests, where do we go from here? What is the solution? Shall we start with Professor Ukaegbu, please? What do you see will happen? Where do we go from here?
Okay, let me do some asides before I answer your question. The last speaker mentioned, I think he mentioned about Fulani herdsmen taking their cows to various parts of Nigeria, if I recall. I want us also to remember that there is a country near Nigeria where there is a presidential order that if you see any cow...
Sorry, Dan, I have to leave. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to the mosque.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes. You must remember Ghana. Ghana, there's a presidential injunction there that if you see any cow actually destroying or being a menace, you shoot it aside. Am I right? Anybody read this about Ghana?
You're right.
Oh, okay. That is...
It's not just that you're right. It was implemented.
And it was implemented. And yet we have a president in Nigeria where that kind of thing happens. People are killed. Since you asked me to make this, to be part of this, I have not done this before. Since you asked me to be part of this, I've been researching these things. From 2016 up till not too long ago, people have been killed in the Southeast. You know, we are not sure of, I don't know what I can say, we're not sure of what happened in Ebonyi State, where about 13 people were killed in that. People also blame the herdsmen. And they keep coming, and the president makes no statement. So what is the difference between the Nigerian president who does not actually worry about the destruction of lives because of cows and the Ghanaian president who said, kill any cow you see because it's a nuisance? That's an answer to the question that somebody mentioned here. Another thing is, how does Nigeria achieve the ideals that Dan, I think it's Dan Elomba, that mentioned them? Effective judiciary, just judiciary, a fair judiciary, minimization of corruption, effective bureaucracy. People do their job well. Will these things stop? And the question is, how will that happen? In what context? This is why I proudly call myself a structuralist. Social structures determine influence behavior in very big ways. So and all the things I have mentioned here, to close, all the things I've mentioned here, whether it is balkanization or self-determination, secession, separation, disintegration, all of them, the basket concept about it is restructuring. Don't think that restructuring is just going to the Constitution and changing A to B. No, all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 concepts mean the same thing. They come under restructuring. And it depends on what you achieve with restructuring. And I've given you an example of a famous American president who says that self-determination should be negotiated publicly and with equity in the eyes of everybody. So people agree or disagree with various points. This thing Woodrow Wilson said is no different from those who have been calling for sovereign national conference since 1990 something. It's not different. I'm not saying you're going to fight a war. The person who wants to fight a war in restructuring Nigeria is the person who doesn't contribute to it. Is the person who thinks about what he can get or what he or she can get from the country the way it is now. And that cannot move the country forward. My thesis is the freer the regions are from the federal government, the more the best in each region becomes, and the stronger will be Nigeria. That's what I'm saying. And as a structuralist, I stand by it. I'm not asking you to go and fight a war, but see that Nigeria, as it is now, for 60 years has not worked. In fact, maybe the smartest man in the Nigerian project is Ojukwu, may he rest in peace. Why? He was the man who understood this in Aburi and said, let us have a confederation. I believe that those people who were in Aburi and came back and spoiled it will now be regretting, if it's a country that actually people see as one country, they will now be asking those people, why didn't you actually give us a confederation instead of giving us a central government? Now we don't know where to go. So negotiate the self-determination and then remain a stronger entity. That's my thesis, and I stand by it.
We thank you very much. The freer the regions are, the more development the federal structure will experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is from this book. Let me show you. It is from this book. Everything, I'm not bragging. This is a research for 40 years. Everything we've discussed today, everything you want to know about Nigerian problems.
Stop checking it, sir. Let us say them. Just keep it steady.
Okay. Everything you want to know about the Nigerian problem will be found in this book, either mentioned superficially or discussed in depth. It discusses the Nigerian problem up to Ruga. And let me end by saying that the issue of Ruga will have a short-lived time. I hope some of you have heard about cowless beef. If you have heard about cowless beef, very soon beef will not be reared from animals. People are culturing beef in laboratories in various countries.
Who will eat that one?
Huh?
Who will eat that one?
Who will eat it when the time comes?
So we'll eat it.
But
yes. Healthier than cow.
In fact, Google cowless beef. You will see many reports, papers, researches on it. So where will Fulani cows be when somebody in Lagos will find that the cowless beef is cheaper?
Not just cheaper, but healthier.
Okay, you may be a scientist. You may be
am.
Very good.
I'm a general surgeon. I'm a general surgeon, and I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, thank you very much. So where will Fulani cow be when the laboratories are enticing in America here, enticing, they are financing it, in various meat packing areas, they are financing it. When it comes, or even our petrol, now that they are using the petrol as an excuse for preventing restructuring. Look, right. The superiority of petrol will die in about 30 or 40 years to come. I don't know what Nigeria will use to make money to foot its bills at that time. All right. Thank you.
We thank you very much. Mr. Paul Ejime, where do we go from here, and your concluding comments?
Thank you very much. Cowless beef, yes. Digital technology and more are still being done. But is that going to be the solution to our problem? We tend to put all Fulanis in a basket, as if we didn't have the Fulanis in the past. We will all remember that wherever we have been, from all parts of the country, we have always had these people rearing this cow. Something has happened. There has been a new dimension to it. And that is what we will have to interrogate, to know why, if you say cow, it might not be the solution. The solution is what I will list this way. We have a constitution that gives the president, almost a supreme power to do whatever, and nobody is willing to challenge him. The judiciary is not empowered by the constitution, and then the characters. The legislature, the same. In fact, what is happening is that before the president says jump, the National Assembly will say, sir, how high? That you will never have anything working, whether you break the country into how many. So let us go and look at that ground now, see what is working, and because some things are working, and see those that are not working and see how we can deconstruct, unpack them, and then pack them again, and be where we want to be. If it is a federation, a constitution really does not make a country, but it is the operators. You can have the most beautiful words written somewhere, but the operators will be, we have had, this country under Jonathan has a different context and then configuration. than who we have here now. And that is bound to be. Look at America. They say they are the oldest democracy. But look at what happened under President Trump and what now Biden is doing. So we have to look at all that to be able to understand how governments, the evolution of governments and governance. I think that is what we have to look at. And also know that it's not enough. The president alone cannot succeed in what he's doing unless he has the support. And that, I don't know who said so, that, you know, what is it? An oppressor cannot continue unless he has following among those who are oppressed. And then again, another saying that those who, the dangerous people in the society are the ones who keep quiet when evil is being done. It's not probably those who are doing that evil, because they will always be there. But what do you do to correct that situation? And that is why one is calling on, if it is by bringing, there is a provision in that constitution that has never been tried, or I don't know what it does, to recall people when they are no longer representing their interests. Has it been tried? And then now, whether you like it, you say, I don't know how peaceful there is going to happen. Remember the NSAS, there's still a probe about how many people were killed or whether shots were fired or were not fired. These things can be swept under the carpet, but let the Nigerians, the critical mass of the people, come out like the Miamians are now coming out. Since February 1st, they have been on the street. More than 700 people have died, but they are heading somewhere. They are going to uproot that military. And here, you cannot kill everybody. There must be a time, and by the way, this government has just until 2023 to go. So what we're talking about Nigeria's future. Where do we, it's not about just immediate now. Lest we become, complacent and say, well, once we remove, because that's another danger. Once we remove one head of state, then our problem is solved. No, the regime change. What happens? The Westerners, they have seen it. They killed Saddam. They killed Gaddafi. Look at what has happened to those countries. They thought they were the problems, but the problems is deep-rooted. Systemic, constitutional, political, economic, social. And so how do you bring them together? You have to come together with Easterners, Igbos, Hausas. There are some Hausas that are it's not all of them are happy with what is happening. You go to Yoruba, the same thing. So let all those who are unhappy, who have grievances against what is happening now, come together and then begin to ask questions, tough questions about the governance of this country. And then things will change. But if we all sit down and then think that by saying disintegrate, or everybody go to your home, remember that some governors are there. There are even some Igbo people who are the defenders of this administration, more than the Fulanis that we're talking about. Why are they doing that? There are some Yorubas who are there benefiting, and we don't want to have anything to do with changing the status quo. And that is what we have to, if it is a attitudinal change, if it is going to a situation where we now know that it is not working, if it's not working for one man, and injustice to one is injustice to all.
Thank you.
And everybody will be ready to fight it until justice, social justice, equity, and corruption, we have to fight it. Corruption, it goes across, whether in the east and the west and the north. That is another monster that we have to fight. Because that is what is happening. You bring somebody to be in charge of the military, and then arms are ordered, and then they disappear. You give somebody a contract to tar his a road in his village, and then that road is not tarred, or electricity. So you blame the Fulani for that?
Thank you, sir.
We still have to, that is why it is micro, it is macro. We all have a lot to do to it, to fight corruption, bring justice. Before, there is no peace without justice. And then we have to fight on it and then get it done. Every citizen is a collective responsibility. It's not one man waiting for somebody to go and get our chestnut from the fire. And then you sit down and say, or now it's not my business. But when the changes now come, you come to the table to enjoy it. No, Everybody is affected. Let us fight it. Because what the people are having now is will not last. It's not sustainable. The Nigerian system as it is not sustainable. It has to change. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Dr. Nwaezeigwe, please, where do we go from here?
The first of all is that there have been misconception about Fulani, monopoly of cow. Fulani never had monopoly of cow. My town, Abuja, had hundreds of cows before the Civil War. Dwarf cows. We never bought cows for our ceremony from the Fulani. And I know that after the Civil War, because of preponderance of stockfish, these cows were not marketable in the East. Okay. And that was for that reason that Oporoko was banned. And import Oporoko today to buy those cows. Yes. Nobody, for me, I don't think this. That is one. So the popularity of cow as a sustainable commodity in our menu is just political. That's one. Secondly, peace in Nigeria. Please, strategically, let us look around. In Cameroon today, there's war there. In Chad, the rebels are approaching N'Djamena now. Boko Haram is there. In Mali, they're there. In Niger, problem. So, what are we looking at? Because people are talking about corruption. You cannot tell a soldier, a policeman carrying gun that you are taking, he will shoot you. So there must be stability, peace, before the issue of corruption comes in. It's under a civil order. So first of all is that we should work toward demilitarization of Nigeria. If change of a democratic system, if restructuring will work, otherwise the amount of guns in private hands, in non-state participants, is enormous now that even the police, in fact, that even the police, the army are not safe. So the traditional rulers are not safe. So it is incumbent on every section of Nigeria to come out and protest against insecurity, this incompetence, and this kind of laxity in policy dissemination and policy formulation and policy implementation. Unless we do it, we are going to die gradually. We are going to die piecemeal. And people are dying piecemeal. People no longer know when they will die. Because if you are going to Lagos tomorrow, next time, a journalist, if you look at now, you find that people are continuing to be killed every now and then. And the government is keeping quiet. Nobody has been brought up and then charged to court. Even the judiciary. You see, the majority of those who fled at Owerri prison, not correctional center, because I've been in prison. You can buy Igbo there, you can buy hot drink, you can do anything. It is the warder, it is the prison officers that will remove you. In Enugu Sewan, when I became the head of state, I came in and banned smoking, and then they tried to overthrow me, and it was the policeman who said they should remove me because I was trying to spoil his business in Enugu Sewan when I was taken there by military regime. So it is never a correctional center. It is even where you become more criminalized. So the issue is our people should be practiced. People should now come out. If you don't die tomorrow, if you don't die today, you will die tomorrow. My life today is a miracle, but I never knew that I'd be alive. I've died several times and I've resurrected. And for that reason, I've not believed that I don't even own my life. And if I believe I don't own my life, why should I fear to die? Why should I stop fighting? So I want people to know that if you fear to die, that is when death will meet you. But if you don't fear death, you will live. Thank you very much.
We thank you very much, Dr. Nwaezeigwe, for using your last speech to bring this theme: can Nigeria exit insecurity, halt the clamor for self-determination by its constituent units, and prevent disintegration. Dr. Nwaezeigwe is a director, Nigerian Civil War and Genocide Research Network, Research Fellow-in-Exile, and at Institute of African Affairs, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and former director, Center for Igbo Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He has investigated the issue of genocide around the Sahel region of Africa and produced reports and articles based on his work. So Dr. Nwaezeigwe, we thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
I remember when you tested the, I read the news when you were dragged with your brother in a rickety bus from Anambra to Abuja by the DSSS, where you enjoyed it a little bit and then understood what we were talking about. So you already have a first-hand experience of what is happening in Nigeria.
All right, we thank you. That's old. That SARS that carried it out. SARS is no more now. Just as you said, some of these institutions come and go, but the citizens will always be there. So thank you very much for being with us tonight. Professor Chikwendu Ukaegbu, Professor of Sociology and Global Development, Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, USA. He has published a book, In Search of Development, Human Capital, Entrepreneurship, Politics, and Leadership of Nigeria. He has shown us the book here. I personally would like to get a copy, so eventually I'll contact you, Prof, to find out how, or if you can tell us now, if someone wants to have a copy of your book, how does one go about it?
You can Google it and get it from the publisher. I also saw it on Amazon. Yeah, so.
All right, so we thank you very much. I'll certainly do that. Thank you for being with us tonight again, Prof. We certainly enjoyed your thesis on this topic under discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Ejime is a renowned journalist. He has worked with a lot of global media and organizations. He's also an author, published several books, a former diplomatic and war correspondent, global affairs analyst, consultant for international organizations on corporate communications. He has worked with ECOWAS, continued to work with election observer groups across Africa. So he certainly has first-hand knowledge of what is going on in not only in Nigeria, but across other developing nations. So Mr. Ejime, thank you for being with us this evening.
My pleasure, Dan. And then also for those who have enriched this discussion. It continues. I mean, we cannot go to sleep until Nigeria gets it right. By the way, other African countries are, that's the danger. We might be underplaying what Nigeria is or the kind of, clout that it should have or it has had. When we now come and begin to talk about the fact that it cannot move forward, I love the title, In Search of Development. So let us look for that development and then harness those things that are working, the best practices, and bring work on our differences. By the way, they are not, our differences are, diversities. We are diverse people culturally, religiously. Nigeria is not, it's a multi-religious country. It's not a one. So that is the kind of thing that should be in the constitution, that nobody will come and impose or think that Nigeria is a one, religion country. So these are some of the issues. And when things like that happen, we have to question them. But we have to have a vibrant and virile judiciary. That is the last hope for the people, and a legislature that is up to its work, and then an executive that questions and works for the people, not for self.
Thank you very much.
So that there will be justice. Yeah. Before we talk about peace.
Yes, thank you. Ahmad, Sajoh has left us to break his fast. I've known him for a long time. We call him Ahmad, but he's Al-Haji. He's also a doctor. So Dr. Sajoh, former Commissioner for Information at Adamawa State, he's now running an NGO, FutureNow project based in Abuja. I remember, I think it was during the Yar'Adua regime. And after that, that was when I came in contact with him. His town in Adamawa State was sacked by Boko Haram. They lived in the bush for, don't know whether it's weeks or days. Boko Haram conquered their territory, renamed it, and started collecting tax from there. Eventually, they came back to their town or community, and he now started to research on the activities of Boko Haram. He produced a very wonderful work on the issue. But unfortunately, like we all lament, the structure of Nigeria doesn't allow such type of people to actually direct the state of affairs. So we thank him in absentia. A lot of other people also who are here contributed immensely to this discussion tonight. Mr. Ezeluche, renowned lawyer, Alibaba Muhammad, we thank you. Some people will think that Muhammad is a Fulani. He's a Nupe, actually from Niger State. So some people underrate the immense multiplicity of culture in the central region of Nigeria. So when we talk of balkanization, Muhammad always asks, where will those people go to? The Nupe, the Gwari, the Kamberi, all those people who make up Niger State. Niger State alone accounts for, I don't know how many cultures are there. So where do they go? So these are some of the problems the structure of Nigeria presents. So we thank all of you for being with us tonight. And we hope that very soon we will be with you again to talk on some of those issues. Thank you and have a good evening.